Right, hello and welcome to our review of Tomorrowland, and it had a subtitle that nobody's ever going to remember, but that doesn't really matter. So this is the new Brad Bird picture. Brad Bird.
That's just reminded me. Yeah, carry on.
Brad Bird is the director of such pieces as the Iron Giant, Ratatouille, The Incredibles, and he did one of the Mission Impossible movies, which I do not know the name of.
It really reminds me of this book. I'm not sure why.
There's certain
Haven't read it, but
titular similarities. It could, yeah. Well,
right,
it's
yeah.
main
No, the
female
plot is not
protagonist.
similar at all.
No.
I just read it there.
Yes, he's a genius. Anyway,
I'm Rain Man.
in order to sum up this movie as another work of the great director of Brad Bird, who I've often considered one of the modern directors who we really need to keep an eye on from now on in order to, he's somebody who's making great progress. He's never let us down yet. And with this movie, you can see that Disney has had a bit of control, and so has like modern movie media. But where I would say this movie does have a lot of the challenging elements that Brad Bird usually puts forth for children. I mean, you've got your deaths, you've got your dark images and things that you wouldn't find in most children's movies these days. Because I like that he's able to challenge children. That's one of his best elements. But where we have a lot of what it's lacking in is a lot of the Brad Bird charm and humour that comes with his other movies.
I mean, it is optimistic. They do have an optimistic message.
Well, I mean it's the message of Tomorrowland, which is pretty. It's not a great message, really. I mean, that Tomorrowland in the film context is about a group of people who are supposed to be the smartest of their species, smartest of the human race, the most intelligent people, brought all together into one community, separate from everybody else, so that they can create and invent and innovate in a way that's free of bureaucracy and the various problems that come with
political
regular
influences
society.
and weather and
Exactly. Well, there's a certain irony in that, and the fact that this movie has been clearly influenced by external forces it doesn't need to be influenced by. But we'll get back to that.
There is definitely a theme of climate change and terrorism and things.
No, well, I think
I do actually agree with it. I mean, there was much more optimism in the '60s for the future. Now there isn't.
That's
that's basically the message of the film, and isn't it? I mean, basically.
No, it's not. The message of this film is that there's this one wonderful place where only very smart people can go, and they'll come together, and they will stay forever separate from the lower orders in order to create, let's call it what it is, a superior race. And considering that Mr. Disney was in fact a raging anti-Semite, it kind of has something of an Aryan race type feel to it, doesn't it?
Not really, because
but it's just the worst part is that idea never gets dismissed in this movie. We start off with a world where, as I just described it, and where we end, spoiler alert, but it doesn't really get in the way of the plot either way. We still have that society where it's considered okay to separate yourselves because you are more intelligent than everybody else, which really does not feel like a Brad Birdish kind of morally uplifting thing. I found it rather depressing.
Well, they had a reason for that. There were factors in the world which were stopping innovation.
Well, that was supposed to be but then again, that's still considering that you're still considering yourself superior to that other race, to that other group of people, rather. Well, let's talk about the more general things before we move on to the more detailed plot points, because we want to do one without really doing spoilers. What I said back there wasn't actually a spoiler, but then again, plot-wise, this movie isn't actually particularly strong. It's mainly about being invited to this wonderful place, the wonderful place of Tomorrowland. And the actual conflict of the movie doesn't come in until very, very late in the game, and it doesn't stick around for very long either. And we never see the effects of the repercussions, except for in a hypothetical sense. You'll see what I mean if you have seen the film, and when we talk about it in deeper detail later. But I think one of the more general problems with this film, it was very colourful, wasn't it? It was a very colourful film.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, well,
I thought it was really good.
the effects and such.
Yeah.
Because Tomorrowland, they're creating the big futuristic city, and a lot of it looks really good.
And at one point, there's people diving through bits of water and then going through.
Oh yes, there's
swimming in.
There's a great
lakes.
idea of like a swimming pool that's capable of suspending itself without a lower area, without a base, so that people can dive out of the bottom of a swimming pool and land in another one below. So they would go through one level and then another swimming pool and then down to the third one, which actually did look really cool. Like I said at the time, that looked like a fantastic idea. But as comfortable as sorry, not comfortable, as colourful as it is, there is no comfort to it. It feels a bit sort of standoffish almost, whereas Brad Bird's other works, everything's very very welcoming and warm and open. This is colourful, but there's still a sort of steely coldness to it. It's, as I said, it sort of pushes you away with its tone. Did you feel anything like that? I personally felt that.
Yeah, I don't know.
When you were looking at the images of Tomorrowland, how exactly did that make you feel? The original images at the beginning.
Not sure.
Can we come up with an opinion of any kind?
I don't really know what you mean.
I mean, just what emotion were you instilled with when we first saw Tomorrowland? The futuristic place.
Oh, pretty neutral about it, really.
Well, that's great when you can say a movie makes you feel entirely neutral. I watched this film and I felt entirely numb. And it's not really saying much. I mean, I didn't feel very standoffish. I just mean that's what stopped me from becoming as invested as I would with, say, like the imagery in Ratatouille, where everything's very beautiful and welcoming and very,
the Iron Giant. I love
very
Iron
very child. Oh yeah, I love the Iron Giant. And very child friendly as well. But other than that, going on from that, we should probably talk a little bit more. A couple of other things before we go on to a bit of talking about the actual plot, so we can avoid spoilers. I mean, you've like I said, you've got your areas of humour. One thing that bothered me was George Clooney seems to be constantly doing an impression of Robert Downey Jr. I suppose you could call him Robbie D. Jr. And as Iron Man, which I don't know, just seemed a bit counterintuitive. He's not finding his own identity as an actor. He was just impersonating another one. It almost seemed like. Then again, that could be down to Brad Bird's direction, which I've never seen him make such a mistake before. But then again, I suppose we were quite young when we saw his other things.
I mean, it does come down to how you see the future, really. I was saying to my dad before I left that it's another film which is imagining the future based upon what's going on in our time. And you think about other films that have done that. I mean, I can only think of Back to the Future at the moment.
Yeah, we talked about this last time, didn't we?
It's our time's view of the future. And at the moment, there does seem to be a real pessimism towards the future. I mean, there's climate change going on. Yeah, exactly. And I think I'm glad it addresses that.
But it doesn't exist in Tomorrowland, I suppose. I suppose that's one way of doing. That's one way of explaining a lot of the themes of this movie. In the real world, we have horrible potentials of the future, but Tomorrowland is all optimistic and shiny and wonderful. And I mean, the entire thing could be said to be. There's even this section where we see Tomorrowland, and what we see of it is described as an advert. And in a way, this entire thing is kind of like an advert for what Tomorrowland was. I don't know if Tomorrowland actually exists in any way these days. I've only ever been to Disneyland Paris, and I don't recall them having anything along those lines there, apart from It's a Small World After All. Though I don't think that was actually part of it. That does feature at the beginning of this movie, but I suppose it does work as an advert for Tomorrowland, or the ethics of Tomorrowland, which still is uncomfortably about taking all the dreamers, as they choose to put it at the end of this movie. At the end of this movie, they call it the dreamers, and those who are optimistic, as opposed to all the other people in the world who are pessimistic because they're idiots. Like, it takes an intelligent person to be optimistic. Actually, it's usually kind of the other way around. I mean, an idiot can be optimistic. Either way, it's not exactly a great advert, because the concept of Tomorrowland isn't necessarily, not the movie Tomorrowland, like the original idea Tomorrowland, is a rather uncomfortable idea about innovation through segregation and it was invented by somebody who is now famously an anti-Semite, or was famously an anti-Semite.
What, Walt Disney?
Yes.
Okay.
He
Yeah,
was,
I think he was. Yeah.
Yeah, he fired a lot of people because they were Jewish. Anyway, let's talk a little bit.
You've got to look at it in the context of the time, and you think he was growing up during, I don't know when. When was it? Like 1920s and 30s.
Yeah.
When, yeah.
When you could possibly get away with it.
I'm not excusing it at all. But and anyway, I don't think any of that filtered through to this film.
I mean,
although there was this segregation thing, it wasn't based upon anything other than your ability. There were all races and peoples involved in this film.
It was based upon ability and not
your
race.
intellect and your imagination and your optimism.
It's still segregation all the same. It doesn't, and it
that
extends from the idea.
In any human society.
But it also extends from the idea that in an Aryan culture they once thought that they were more intelligent because they were superior. Instead of being superior through ethnicity, now it's superior through intellect.
Yeah, but at least you can measure
that. Technically, you can measure.
It's not exactly a birthright, is it?
Technically, you can measure ethnicity in a way, I suppose.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't.
For one thing, intellect means something. Ethnicity means nothing.
Yes, I suppose, but the idea that it was only he would have originally thought that being of a certain race gave you a higher intellect. It's just like an element of the original fascism.
I think we're getting off getting off the film.
I think we're very much talking about the film. Personally, I think that Tomorrowland is a movie that is a film made about an attraction that's out of date. We shouldn't be making films about something that was built on what we now know is not actually a good ethos. Anyway, I want to go on to the plot. So you don't. Let me just quickly say, and then you can have your last say before we go on to the plot. There are really quite some good performances here in this. The girl who plays the teenage girl, in the trailer she actually did look like a teenage girl, but in most of the movie she looks like 30. I don't know how old she actually is. There's this one girl who does a British accent throughout the movie that sounds really put on. Like the entire time you just want
to go.
Yes, oh dear goodness, oh Mary Poppins and crumpets and it's like, oh yeah, sorry, would you like an English muffin, or as I would call it, a muffin? It's just, she didn't say any of those things. That was just us making fun of her.
I don't know whether she was English or not. Like sometimes
we meant to
she
check
sounded
that.
English. Should we check it now?
If you can get it up on your phone.
Yeah, all right.
And anyway, there is a decent amount of comedy, but well, actually no, there's a reasonable amount of comedy, but not enough really to carry it what is otherwise a little bit uncomfortable. And there's like I said, good performances. There are one or two actually really genuinely good speeches. The conflict, as I already said, without revealing any spoilers, doesn't appear until very late in the film, whereas most of it is an advert for Tomorrowland, and then even when it does appear, it goes away almost as quickly. It has some severe problems, and it's probably my least favourite of Brad Bird's pictures. His direction still does a very good job, but there's a few issues that he just must have had trouble getting around, and it is a problem. Have you found out what?
Well, she's known for Snow White. She's called Raffi Cassidy.
Raffi Cassidy. It must say on her biography up here. Where she's
dark. I mean, she's
is an actress known for Snow White and the Huntsman. Dark Shadows.
Well, we come prepared for these.
It
really do.
It doesn't actually say in there. So has she got a Wikipedia page? See if you can find that. It really doesn't matter what.
No, it doesn't.
At the end of the day, either way, her accent
I mean, she's been in a lot of
yeah.
films which are like fantasy films, which have.
Yeah, well, Snow White and the Huntsman, they would have been forced to also in that do the fake British accent in the same way that they do it in
Tea and crumpets.
Well, you know, Kirsten Stewart was in that. And she had to do the exact same. Kristen Stewart.
She's also in a TV series called Colourful Characters, and it's colourful spelt the British way. So
Yeah.
maybe she is.
Maybe.
British.
Maybe.
I mean, we
But
missed.
she must have definitely emphasised it for that. Anyway.
She just.
Do you have anything else
She
you
sounds
want to-
like what Americans think British people sound like.
Yes, well, except not as cockney. Hello, governor.
Hello.
Do you have anything you want to say before we do talk about the actual plot? Oh, Hugh Laurie did a relatively good job performing.
Oh yeah, he was brilliant.
He was probably the best actor.
I mean, I was
in
just
it,
looking
yeah.
for Stephen Fry. He was there somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah, he was. I'm sure he was lurking in the background. Yeah. Freddie,
Smoking a cigarette.
Freddie, I'm not sure if I was right about your acting in this movie. Yeah,
Oh,
Jack,
you're
you were
right.
right as bloody rain. You were, Jack. Oh, Jack, I'm doing a fantastic job, Jack. Just such an old duffer at this sort of thing. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. For those of you who haven't seen the movie, we're going to go on to a spoiler section now. So thank you very much, and talk to you later. Bye. Oh, I'm Felix Jones. Sykes. Bye. Anyway.
Did we even? Yeah, we didn't really introduce that.
Okay.
Oh, it's fine.
I'm pretty.
They know.
Yeah, they've seen our previous one.
I'm sure. They're really committed.
Anybody who watches this video is clearly such a dedicated fan. They would prostrate us in themselves in front
if
of
you've
us
watched
and
this
worship.
far, if you've watched this far,
Yeah, you probably do have to be a fan. Right,
fans?
so we have fans. No, we don't. But if you are one, maybe you could comment, let me know, and then maybe like would seem worth it. Let's talk about the movie.
Sorry, I'm just gonna check whether the camera's actually recording.
Yeah, right.
Yes, it is. It's saying low battery.
It's okay, I can cut that out. Cut that out. Okay, so the thing, let's try and do it quickly. The conflict in this movie was, of course, the idea that the Earth was going to be destroyed, and that didn't come in until, must have been like an hour and 20 in, when they finally did, we
battery.
Oh right, it was, like I said, it was only because it was only a hypothetical thing. There was a potential of the future, and in the vision of the future, we saw that there might be an apocalypse, or rather, that definitely would happen. And so they go, we have to destroy this thing. Even we discovered that we had to destroy this thing 20 seconds after we find out that there's a problem, and then within another 20 minutes, the entire thing is destroyed, and then they just go, well, we assume that they probably sorted themselves out after that, and then suddenly it's the end, and we're doing another advert for Tomorrowland and how brilliant it is to be segregated. It was really weak, but the speech that Hugh Laurie did.
So just a minute. Before we move any further, how many stars out of 10 would you give it?
Oh, how many stars out of 10 would I give it? 6. I didn't have to. I mean, like I said, it was colourful, but I wasn't comfortable with it. It didn't grab my attention hugely. The performances were good, but a lot of the writing wasn't very strong. The plot wasn't very strong because of what I just talked about. Generally, I suppose one thing I would say is that looking back on when I first saw the other Brad Bird movies, I don't remember ever thinking I had an incredibly high opinion of them, except for maybe The Incredibles. But then that was really gripping. That's a great movie. That's Sykes' favourite movie.
Okay, yes it is.
Yeah, it is.
No, I do really.
You used to say it was your favourite. I don't know if it still is.
I don't really have a favourite film. I suppose it is. If I were to choose, it would be that.
Yeah,
I do also like. What is it? I mean, what are your favourite movies?
My favourite is Clockwork Orange and
With Nell and I.
Yeah,
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Of course, all-time favourite. I could go into more detail. I probably need a bit more time to prepare. Caught me a bit off guard.
Yeah, I do really like. What was that? Strangers on the Train.
Oh yeah, Strangers on the Train. North by Northwest. That's one of my favourites. Speaking of Hitchcock.
Yeah. The Birds, totally. Love that.
Yes, The Birds. I just saw The Birds for the first time the other day. God, that was the worst Hitchcock movie I've ever seen, which is just for various reasons. Maybe I'll go into that another time. So what would you give the movie out of 10?
7. I mean, that is what everyone's given it on IMDb. I think I agree with them. I mean, it wasn't bad. I think I would consider a film which was 6 on IMDb a bad film. 7 is like a film which is passable.
I don't think
relatively.
I'm not giving my thing necessarily in IMDb standards. I just think 6 because it. Well, actually, no. Maybe it deserves maybe a 6.5 because it really was a bad film and the direction was strong, but I just couldn't get myself on board for any of it.
And there has been an inflation in IMDb ratings recently.
Oh well, actually, what I meant to say earlier about how this movie has been affected by modern movie standards is the climax takes place entirely in silver and grey and blue, which is just so typical of modern movies. And it's a really ugly and unpleasant colour. And it doesn't even come with an explanation, because we see Tomorrowland in its prime, in its heyday, and it's all lovely and colourful. And then in the third act they come back to Tomorrowland, and for no reason whatsoever it's all grey and unpleasant and it's supposed to be a hell there. And they never say why. And then after Hugh Laurie dies, despite the fact him never being...
Yeah, why do they never explain why the place is just completely
broken? It's awful.
I mean, maybe that's because the commercial that they created for it just was, hyped up.
It wasn't, because when the party got started again, it all looked exactly like it did in the commercial. It was all wonderful and colourful, and it's just it made no sense. It was just an excuse to use those colours, I suppose. And like I said, the speech that Hugh Laurie gave there was very strong, and it's points I've heard all before about human beings welcoming the apocalypse and how we're all looking forward to zombie apocalypse and stuff. But it was actually pretty compelling. So yeah, what did you say you would give it in the end? A 7?
7.
Yeah. Like I say, I think it deserves a 6.5. I want to give it more, but it's just because I was expecting a bit more from Brad Bird. I really think he should go back to animated pieces, because he's so good at animating characters. When he draws and creates a character, they're always really...
Oh my God, I
really
was thinking of Kent Mansley from...
we love
Kent
Ken Mansley.
It doesn't feel like a two-dimensional character, like all the characters in this film felt like.
Yeah, in those films, the
dialogue is
open and
great.
expressive.
Yeah.
And, there's so much to them to explore.
What am I talking about?
I'm talking about your goddamn old security, oh God, whilst you're asleep at home and your widow jammies over in Washington were wide awake and worried, etc.
Yeah.
Where are you going, Slugger? Dagger, Spoiler? Where are you going?
Cowboy.
And you've got every character in The Incredibles, and even in Ratatouille does just look great and feel great and sound great. And God, I want to watch those movies. Should we watch those movies after we're done with them?
Yeah, I'm sad.
Yeah, we should. He just ought to. I think I've never seen the Mission Impossible movie that he did, though it has a very high rating around. I assume it must be very good. It's just this film would be his first disappointment. I hope it's not the first of many.
Well, I don't think it's a disappointment. I mean,
disappointed by his usual.
Whenever
standards.
I'm reviewing with you, you're always saying that the film is a disappointment. I don't know whether that's...
I don't. I try not to be cynical when I come into these things. I was thinking to myself, you're going to come into this review being really cynical, aren't you? And I'm not. It's just I have no choice but to be a little down about this, because the pacing was bad and the characters weren't as... Because the characters were bad and the pacing was bad, and just generally it was kind of a disappointment, especially with Brad Bird's usual standards. And really, that's all I've got to say. And there definitely was not a jump cut in there, because our camera ran out of battery. Am I still on camera? And do you have any last thoughts quickly before we sign off? There's no one there. He's just having one of his psychotic delusions. Any final?
God's sakes.
Any final thoughts?
No.
There?
Bye.
Okay, we're done. Okay, Felix Jones, Carl Sykes. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, no, he's killing everyone. Goodbye.